What's going on there, guys? My name is Matt, or most of you will know me as, and in this month's Thrustmaster video we are going to be taking another look at the TCA Airbus edition throttle quadrant. Today though we're doing a departure. We're in Bristol at the moment, and I thought we would celebrate the recent release of the FS Labs Sharklets add-on, which you can see on the screen now. We're going to be performing a Brecon 1 X-ray departure from runway 27. We're in an A320 with CFM engines. Golf Echo Zulu Romeo Tango is the registration. And I thought I'd just show you my process, basically from engine startup to departure using the TCA Quadrant, which I absolutely adore to use. So we'll go and do that. I'm just going to make sure everything is set up on here. So I actually need to move the engine start switch is back there to the off position, and everything else looks good before we get into the aircraft. So without further ado, everything is set up and should be ready to rock and roll. Just before we do move on, apologies if I sound a little bit stuffed up. I do have a bad case of a man cold right now, and I'm not feeling 100%. I'm also using a new audio mixer, so hopefully volume levels and everything are okay, but yeah, apologies for that. So we've already got our routing and everything in, and we've got the APU running, as you might have heard in that external view. And so we're actually ready right away to do the before start checklist to the line. So cockpit preparation has been completed on both sides. The signs, so seatbelt signs are on, and EasyJet have the no smoking signs on auto, so that's already set. ADIRs are on nav. The fuel quantity today, we're looking for about 5.9 tons, so we've got FOB fuel on board there, 5.9 selected. FMGS, we've got both of those set up, ready to go. And the altimeter today, we've got QNH 1006, indicating about 630 feet on both the captain and the first officer's side. So that is the before start checklist to the line complete. With that in mind, we'll right click on the we'll right click on the intercom button there on the ACP, and that will hook up with GSX. I'll turn the volumes up a little bit for you all if that helps, so you guys can hopefully hear things okay. And GSX will get in position ready for the pushback. We'll go and prep everything else that we need to do now while they disconnect the external power for us and get rid of the chocks as well. So we'll put the beacon light on, and we'll also turn the transponder on.
We are ready for pushback.
There we go. Gary says that he's ready for pushback out the front, and so we'll do our before start checklist to the line. So windows and doors are closed and armed. We can check that the windows are armed because they've got this red tab around them. So we'll say that that's good to go. The beacon light we've just turned on. Mobile phones are off, and the parking brake is also on. Now we can obviously see physically on the TCA Quadrant that the parking brake is set. We can see in the flight deck that the parking brake is set, but the way that you really should note it is that sometimes, even if you've got the parking brake on, if there's an issue with the aircraft will tell you if it's actually correctly engaged or not. So on the upper ECAM display, it says parking brake there. In Boeing, it'll say parking brake set. Okay, right, nose right, tail left for a runway 27 departure today, so we'll hit that on GSX.
Departure check completed. Bypass pin inserted. Release parking brakes.
Release parking brakes. We are ready to go. So we will release those parking brakes now on the TCA Quadrant.
Commencing push. All engines clear. Start at will.
And Gary's given us clearance to start. So off block time at 13:33, pretty much on the dot. We'll start the clock. And EasyJet start engine number 1 first. So ignition switch mode 2, ignition and start. And that will bring up the engine page on the lower ECAM display there. And then we'll just give it a few seconds, and we'll start engine number 1 first. Okay, we'll monitor the displays, looking for N2 rising. You can see N1 just starting to creep up there. There we go. We've got N2 starting to rise. Bit of PSI even coming in as well. Lovely. Now we can monitor that start, but let's go and have a look outside and see how it looks. These sharklets on the A321 on the A320 and on the A321 in fact are absolutely beautiful. We've been waiting for them for a long time, so I'm glad they're finally here. We've even got an orange themed pushback tug there. Brilliant. Okay, we've got a veil now on the upper ECAM display, so that signals that we've got a good engine start on engine number 1. And we'll just wait for pushback to complete here before we continue, I think. There's Gary. He seems happy. If Gary's happy, so are we. And as you can see, it's not a very far departure for us today.
Set parking brakes.
Okay, we'll set the parking brakes again on the throttle quadrant.
Waiting your confirmation for good engine start.
And we'll hit the intercom button again with the right click to confirm that we've had good engine start. And we'll start engine number 2 now. Make sure that throttle's levers are idle. There we go. And we'll monitor for a start on number 2. So N2's rising once again, which is good to see. PSI's coming up. All looking good. Go to an outside view. We can see Gary walking up to disconnect the tug now. Not the most perfect pushback, but we're facing in the right direction at least. I really like the Sharklets with this EasyJet livery as well. It's beautiful. We're not exactly very heavy today. We're only doing a flap 1 takeoff out of Bristol. If you get very heavy, you can get some interesting flap configurations here and maybe toga takeoffs and things, but it's just a normal flex flap 1 departure today. There we go. Avail on number 2. And Gary's removing the tug now from the front of the aircraft, which is good. So we'll wait for his signal on the right-hand side. Okay, after start procedure, this isn't exactly correct by EasyJet standards, but I'll do my best. APU bleed off first, then the APU master switch. And then we'll come down and we'll arm the ground spoilers. And then we can do other things on the TCA quadrant. So we'll move the engine start switch back, or the mode switch back to norm. And we'll go and select flap 1. We'll just go and double check Gary's giving us the wave. Cheers, Gary. Thanks, mate. And we'll go to the flight control page as well, and we can go and set our trim, which for departure today is down 0.4. So we'll go and scroll until we've got down 0.4 on there. Looking good. Okay, I'll select terrain on the right-hand display and also brake max as well. And whilst we're here, we'll go and do a flight control check. So left aileron and right aileron. This is really important to do. I actually had some issues when trying to record this video earlier on where P3D crashed and it reset all of my key control bindings. And so when I tried to record it for a second time, everything was completely messed up. So it's good just to double check these to make sure everything's okay. There's the rudder check back into the central position, and so that's all complete. Okay, next checklist is the after start checklist. Anti-ice is not required here today. The ECAM status is checked. The pitch trim, we've gone 0.4 down, and we can double check the rudder trim is 0.0. You can in fact even do the rudder trim on the TCA quadrant. So if I move that on the TCA quadrant, you can see it moving in the simulator as well. So we'll make sure that that's set in the middle. There we go, 0.0. And with that, we are ready to go for taxi. So we'll go and engage the tiller with the pedal disconnect button. And we'll pop our taxi light on. And then we can release the parking brake. Now, we're quite light today, so it wouldn't surprise me if we rolled forward nicely just on idle power. But we'll add a little bit of thrust in just to get some momentum going. Just a little bit. You don't need to go too crazy. It's not a very long taxi here at Bristol for runway 27. And whilst we taxi out, we can go and get some more things prepped today. So we can do a takeoff config. And we also need to go and get the weather radar on now. Predicted wind shear on, and turn system number 1 on there like so, which is all good. Now, we haven't got a call for the cabin yet, so we'll take it a little bit slow on the taxi, just waiting for the cabin. I find it sometimes with the FS Labs for me, sometimes they call and sometimes they don't. And I believe if you hit the forward call button, it does hurry them up. So we'll see if that does anything. Don't know why I've got the shade down there. Doesn't really matter too much. So as I say, it's a Brecon 1 X-ray departure for us this afternoon with a max altitude of 6,000 feet. But what we'll do is I'll show selected climb and we'll climb straight through that just for this phase. Okay, we'll do a brake check as well, make sure those are all working, which it seems like they are, which is good. And we've got runway ahead here as we come to the holding point Alpha X-ray for runway 27. What we'll do is we'll hold there and just give the cabin a quick second ready for departure, and then we can do our before takeoff checklist as well. Nice and gently, there's no point rushing. Of course, using the rudder pedals, I use the Thrustmaster pendular rudders to steer at the moment because I don't have a tiller axis. Okay, we'll just set the parking brake for a moment whilst we're stationary, and I'll turn the taxi light off here for a moment. And then we've got the before takeoff checklist here. So we've got flight controls are checked. The briefing is confirmed. I've not really done much of a briefing with you, but yeah. Flap setting is 1+F. FMA and takeoff data. I've not read all of those things out to you, but we're happy that we're good to go with those. Transponder is set now. We can go and put TARA on ready for departure. The ECAM memo is takeoff no blue. You can see TO, and then there's no blue notifications on there. If I was, for example, to disarm the spoilers, you'd see there's a blue notification there to arm the ground spoilers. So takeoff no blue. What else have we got on here? And then the EFB, which is fine. So now that's down to the line, and we would be waiting on the cabin. As I say, I don't know if the cabin's going to call us. It would be absolute sod's law that they call us halfway through the takeoff roll. It has happened to me a few times before where I've been on the takeoff roll and the cabin's tried to call halfway down. So that'll probably happen today, knowing my luck. But we'll say that the cabin is secured for takeoff. Engine mode selector is normal. TCAS is TARA, and then the last two things are the packs and the anti-ice. So on lineup, easy will turn the packs off, so we'll do that now. And anti-ice shouldn't be needed today, at least on takeoff. So I think we're good to go. I think we're ready to go. Packs are off. We'll go and release the parking brake now, and we'll go and pop the rest of the lights on ready for takeoff. There we go. Let's get the whole lot on. Add a bit of thrust, and we'll prepare ourselves for departure. We can say if we were flying on the VATSIM network now, we'd look to the left, make sure there's no traffic on final, and obviously look at our navigation display as well. So we'll say clear on the left and clear on the right as well. We're flying offline this afternoon, so there's no traffic of concern for us. And what we'll do is we'll do we won't do a rolling takeoff. It's not a very long runway at Bristol. We are quite light, so we probably could get away with it, but I won't risk it. Taxiing at snail's pace here. I don't think ATC would be too happy at us taking this long. We'll just be very light on the throttle. I'm usually very bad at lining up, so I'll see if I can try and get it nice and straight. Gently does it, and apply a little bit of braking just as we center out. Okay, we're ready to go. Still no call from the cabin, so I'm assuming that they are happy and ready to go. So what we'll do now is we'll switch the tiller over to the rudder pedals, make sure we've got control of those, and we'll apply toe brakes before we set the power. We'll start the chrono, and here we go for takeoff. We're going to set power to about 50% or so, and we're going to point the side stick forward. You can see there on the PFD, the white cross that's faced forwards. Everything is looking stable. We'll release the toe brakes and advance the thrust levers forward. Man flex SRS runway. Thrust is set. Next call out will be 100 knots where we'll center the side stick. There's 100 knots, centering the side stick now. Monitoring the display, ready for that V1 speed and takeoff. V1, we're committed to takeoff, and there's rotate. So gently pull back. Keep on going. There it is. We've got a positive rate of climb, positive climb, gear going up. Again, I just love how you can do all of this on the TCA Quadrant. Nav's displayed on the PFD, so that's all good. And we're just following the flight director nice and simply today. It's a cloudy day in Bristol. We got a good rate of climb because we are so light today. 2,700 feet per minute at the moment. We'll move the throttle levers back one detent and make sure they're in the correct position with each other. Come on, there we go. Thrust climb, and we've got open climb actually engaged. So what we'll do is we'll engage the autopilot, and I could just left click that to go into climb. So we've got thrust climb, climb, and nav. And now's a good time to put our packs back on. I think it's about 10 seconds between packs, so pack 1 can go on, and we'll monitor our speed starting to rise here as we accelerate. And then we'll say it's not been exactly 10 seconds, but pack number 2 can come online as well now. and we'll bring the runway turn-offs and the nose lights off as well. We're starting to approach that S speed, and as we do so, we'll bring the stage of flaps up. So flap 0, not flaps up, we're in an Airbus today.
If we can be of any further help, then just ask us as we join.
And you can see the flaps and the slats on the wing there retracting. And that's all we actually need to do on the TCA Quadrant. Everything is set now until we're ready for our approach, which is nice and simple. We'll get rid of the ground spoilers on here, and then if we wanted to continue our climb, just to avoid all of the altitude restrictions, we could wind up the altitude, let's say to, I don't know, 30,000 feet, and then we can select open climb as well. You can see the aircraft is still accelerating, and the transition altitude today is 6,000 feet. So as we would be crossing that altitude, we would go into standard on the Q&H there. But that's it, really easy. Again, I just love how intuitive this TCA Quadrant is. It makes my life so much easier, the fact that I'm able to select these things just with one hand without having to fiddle around with key commands on my keyboard whilst I'm trying to do other things. It's all in one place, it's easy to use, and it directly hooks up with the FS Labs, so it should pretty much be plug and play with the FS Labs aircraft. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks so much for watching. I know it was only a very quick one, but it was good fun all the same. I'll set standard now as we're about to go through 6,000 feet, and I'll leave you with some views of the climb out towards Edinburgh. Thanks very much for watching, everyone.